Music by John Williams, directed by Laurent Boswell, Boswell, Boswell. I've looked up many interviews with him, and for some reason, no one calls him by his last name. It's funny. Finally, someone made a documentary about the great John Williams. If you've seen any of my videos, I say this many times, but I mean, I'm still a tiny YouTuber. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I talk about scores a lot. I love scores, I love music, and John Williams is for sure my favorite composer. I mean, like many, I mean, he is a legend. It is insane how good he is. Like billions of people probably. Everyone has nostalgia with his music, whether it be Steven Spielberg films, which just right there, there's probably at least 10 films that people would have nostalgia for. Or Star Wars. Star Wars, the main theme of Star Wars is everywhere. Everyone knows the main theme of Star Wars. Or Harry Potter, like his music is in everyone's DNA, in certainly in pop culture, but I just think in every corner of the world, people have seen these big important films, and therefore they know his music. So he is certainly the most important composer of film ever. And even if you're not into big adventure films, he's done Home Alone. Like, so it's just kind of like he's everywhere, and he's so loved and appreciated by so many. And I love his score so much. And this was a really good documentary. It was not too short. It could have been longer. It was just under 2 hours. It could have been longer, but I think it was just a nice sweet spot where I got a lot of information, a lot of insight into who John Williams was, his upbringing, what made him the man he is today. The film did a decent amount of that, but also it did quite a lot, which I love this. It did a lot of just appreciation and just celebrating John Williams, which I feel like that's exactly what this film should be doing, just celebrating John Williams. And I loved it, and I just felt so moved by this film, and it didn't move me to tears, unfortunately. And I'm not someone who cries easily in film, but Steven Spielberg and John Williams, they both have a very special place in my heart. So I was ready to be moved to tears, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So that might say something about the filmmaking of this film. I did feel a couple times there was some awkward cuts or awkward stalls in momentum. There'd be momentum learning something, and then there'd be like a little segment of an interview. Then I just felt like it stalled, and it'd pick right back up. So maybe that has something to do with it, but nevertheless, still a great documentary. I learned a lot, and I thought it was very interesting to learn about his upbringing, how both his parents were very musical, and it's just insane to know how old John Williams is. He's 92, I believe, maybe 93. And I mean, he's been around for a long time, and it's just crazy to see the era he comes from and the knowledge he has. And just to know how he didn't do Star Wars till he was in his 40s. And that's just insane because that movie 1977. So he just had such a extensive career up until Star Wars. So there was just so much to learn about that I didn't know about. And I saw a little movie poster of an Alfred Hitchcock film, and I did not know he scored a Hitchcock film. So that's very interesting. I definitely want to check that out. Inside perspective and just again celebration. That is what this film is. I learned something interesting that I didn't expect to learn anything new about Star Wars in that because I'm a really big Star Wars fan. But a nice little nugget that I did not know about was that the binary sunset when Luke is looking at the twin suns, John originally had a musical cue, and when George heard it, he was like, that's not exactly what I wanted to be evoking in this scene. And it was very similar. It wasn't like a completely different vibe, but it did have much more of like pensive yet impending doom of what the adventure to come. So I understand why John made the music go in that direction. But George was like, no, that's I wanted more of this, which is what ended up coming out in the film, and it's a legendary scene in cinema, but certainly in Star Wars. So that was a very cool nugget that I learned that I never knew that before. And beyond that, a lot of it is just little insights, no big information. But again, I just feel like if you love music, if you love John Williams, if you just love cinema, the history of cinema, this movie is just great. A great celebration. That's like the best way I could describe this film. A celebration of him. And what's so amazing, which is I feel kind of rare, is that while this is a documentary about a living legend, So he's there to give all the interviews, all the insight. It's not just reliant on his kids, grandchildren, colleagues, you know, like he's there giving the insight. I love to see how much Steven Spielberg was in this film because that's probably, if I'm sure that's his biggest collaborator. And it was just cool to see them together so many times in very different, in multiple interviews, not just in the same setting. You know how in documentaries there's usually like the one seating where they get all the questions out and they're like in the same outfit. You could tell this was over a couple years probably, and just so much great insight, and it really shows you how they're true friends and their relationship. And yeah, it's just a really good, endearing, enchanting, wholesome celebration of this great composer. And I hope everyone checks this movie out. If you don't have Disney Plus, I hope you maybe, get the 7-day trial just to watch it because it's a great film. I really do wish it had a theatrical run, like a proper theatrical release, because I know they had a very limited one in the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles. I wish it would have had a wide release, but of course, Disney's gonna Disney and their obsession with Disney Plus. But this is a film that should have been seen in theaters. But yeah, not to get too negative. But yeah, this is a great film. I hope everyone checks it out, and let me know your thoughts on the film, on John Williams, your favorite score from John Williams. Just real quick, I think my favorite would have to be maybe E.T. I love Star Wars with a passion. I love Jaws with a passion. I love so many of the films he's done. Obviously, Harry Potter is amazing, but something about E.T. just really gets me. That score is just incredible. So yeah, that's my favorite. Let me know yours, and yeah, thanks for watching.